wow, this is a shocker, man. We got two double whammies as of right now. So the Boston Celtics president of basketball operations, originally was Danny Ainge. He plans to resign from his role as Celtics president. And Boston head coach Brad Stevens is planning to transition from his current role into becoming the new head of basketball operations for the Boston Celtics. And it is official that Danny Ainge retires and Brad Stevens is president of basketball operations. Wow, that's crazy. So lookalike Brad Stevens has been described as worn down with coaching since the bubble and welcomed the chance to make the transition to the front office. So Brad Stevens is going to help lead the search for a new head coach. This is, wow. Look like a couple candidates out there are going to be the LA Lakers assistant coach with Jason Kidd, and then former Atlanta Hawks coach Lloyd Pierce are expected to be head coaching candidates for the Boston Celtics. If you're the Boston Celtics, you do not touch Lloyd Pierce. With the young guys in Atlanta, he cannot even get it done with. Don't even touch near that. Jason Kidd, I don't believe he's anywhere near to be a head coach in any position. He's more of an assistant. We saw how it worked with Milwaukee, even with Giannis. They would get bounced in the first round, not ideal. And the whole fiasco with the Brooklyn Nets back into 2014 with the quote-unquote big old three of KG, Paul Pierce, and who else they had? Joe Johnson, Darren Williams, Brook Lopez. Not a big three, but you know how it goes. Oh, this is crazy. A lot to take in here. So number one, I'm going to focus on Danny Ainge. He's been with the Boston Celtics, I believe, around 18 seasons or so, only having two head coaches of Doc Rivers and Brad Stevens. And then you did have the bring in the big three of Paul Pierce. Or actually, you had Paul Pierce, but you brought in Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett. Kevin McHale did hook up the he hooked up the Boston Celtics by sending Minnesota Timberwolves star player KG over to the Celtics. So good thing they had their networking and they had their bias there. Besides that, man, you've had the little era of the 2 to 3 years of Isaiah Thomas becoming a star in the league with the Boston Celtics, and that was the beginning stages of Brad Stevens. They usually get bounced in the first round, and then they made a conference finals appearance but got bounced to the Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron James. Pretty much after that, and entering 2018, they had the Kyrie Irving trade that Danny Ainge orchestrated. So a flip of Isaiah Thomas to Kyrie Irving. And that team was stacked. 2019, well, they were there for 2 seasons, but Kyrie was hurt in the playoffs. And that's when Jason Tatum was a rookie. And you had Jaylen Brown, I believe, his second year. They made Game 7 in the conference finals. So they're heading in a good direction. But in 2019, man, they had a stacked team. You had Kyrie, Gordon Hayward, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Marcus Morris, Terry Rozier, Marcus Smart. I mean, the list kind of goes on even more. Those Celtics were favored to win to make the finals beginning of the season, but they got bounced in the second round. Besides that, Kyrie Irving left, and Danny Ainge has not done a good job whatsoever to pretty much, they brought in Kemba Walker, which was fine, I guess, but the bench has always been suspect. They've always kept young players, especially if they were drafted in the second round, to be in the rotation. And they never truly brought in veterans on the team. And that's something that I've always stated that's hindered the process for the Boston Celtics. Now we're in a position Danny Ainge has gone with, and it was good. It was a good move for the Boston Celtics in their direction, because Danny Ainge did not make barely any moves for the last year or two anyways, with all those first-round draft pick assets. So that's good in that direction. So Brad Stevens will be filling that new position. Brad Stevens has a good eye on things. And, good for him. I'll give him the chance. Now that leads to a head coach situation for the Boston Celtics. You could go direction of a Kenny Atkinson. I believe he could replicate, something formerly good like the Brooklyn Nets back into 2019. Kenny Atkinson should be up in there, but it looks like Lloyd Pierce and Jason Kidd are the top two. I don't like that direction. I do not like those moves at all whatsoever. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. This is kind of crazy news, but something needed for the Celtics, who got bounced in 5 games to the Nets last night. And I'm glad they're going a new direction with a new coach and especially a new president of basketball of operations. Now they need to really change up the roster, man. You got to bring in some veterans on the bench. You got to bring in a true center out there. and point guard. I've always stated Malcolm Brogdon and or Lonzo Ball. Pick one of those up for a point guard. As a center, bring in Steven Adams. But we'll see how this goes in the offseason.